This is the end, don't you know it? None of you shall afford Umbreon, you're too poor! Alright guys, I'm making fun of you guys. The Pokemon card hobby is in a fantastic place. Yes, time to make a video about the Pokemon card hobby and how everybody is complaining because prismatic ETBs are too expensive. They shall not be that expensive. And so when something like this happens where, something is just exploding in price, everyone wants to talk about it. I want to talk about it too. I want to talk about my experiences over the last 6 years. I've been selling nonstop for 6 years. I have some perspective. Why don't we talk about it? 6 years ago, Unified Minds comes out. That's when I start. And then Hidden Fates comes out right afterwards. Hidden Fates, it brings a lot of new people into the hobby, or people who used to be in the hobby come back. And we're all talking about it. We're like, hey, this is pretty cool. We're buying up cards. We're kind of seeing some prices rise. You're like, hey, I bought a Dark Charizard for $800, PSA 10, and then another one for $1,000. I was like, that's pretty cool, right? I didn't know it was going to quadruple in value. At the time, you kind of had a sense it was going to do something, but you didn't know. And then, so I start selling Hidden Fates packs for $11 a pack. It's supposed to be like $4 a pack, but I'm selling it for $11. And people are already complaining. They're like, this is scalping. I was like, maybe it's scalping. But the funny thing about scalping is a lot of people would do that, right? So if you can just obtain Pokemon cards cheap and sell them high, that's the general idea of a collectibles hobby. You collect what you like and then you sell what you don't like. And if you can obtain product and it goes up in value and you sell it at a higher price, you're doing good because you can use that money to buy more of what you like. So it's a hobby, a collectibles hobby is a market. It's fundamentally a market. That's what it is. And the price of a good determines how desirable it is, right? Like the most desirable item is the most expensive. That's what that's what a collectible is. It's just fundamentally what it is. Look at it in any market. Housing market, the best home's the most expensive home. Vehicles, the best cars are the most expensive cars. Antique guns, the best guns are the most expensive. Coins, the best coins are the most expensive because the money is the measure of the desirability. That's all it is. It's uncomplicated, and Pokemon doesn't make enough of its product, and then it shoots up to the moon. So anyways, Logan Paul then does his first edition box break, and I've been dumping all my, big dumping of all my money in these Pokemon cards, and overnight it triples. I'm like, oh, I did it. I'm shaking my wife awake. Wake up. We did it. We're rich. We're pokey rich, which was a very novel idea at the time. Yes, it was very unusual. People were talking about it back then. But Logan Paul does his box break, and I see my whole collection at the time like triple in value, quadruple. I had one card go up times 12 in value. And all of a sudden, everyone wants my cards. People are trying to buy my Japanese Jungle Snorlax or whatever, right? And I just paid $100 for them, and now they want to buy it for like $500. I'm like, this is crazy. I wasn't even sure whether to sell. This was a crazy time period for everybody because it was so new. Everyone didn't really know how to feel about it. Maybe this is a black swan event, like this one-time thing. Nope. No, sir. I didn't feel like it was a black swan event. That's why I didn't sell my whole collection. Some people sold all their cards after Logan Paul did his box break. I could have done that. The market was really high, but I was like, I'm just going to hold. I'm going to hold for 20 years, right? I want to hold my cards and see what happens to them 20 years from now. Because Pokemon did pretty good after 25 years. What happens when it hits 30 and then 35? Well, apparently it goes to the freaking moon. And now we jumped forward in the future. Listen, people are complaining about prismatic evolutions. It's $1,600 a case. That starts to feel like $1,800 after taxes or $1,750. And it's just this unbelievably expensive thing. But you got all these guys coming out here framing it like, oh, it's the evil scalpers. They did this to us. The scalpers did it. No, dude. Pokemon's just that desirable. People want it that bad. Think about it. We just got out of like a 2 or 3 year slump in Pokemon card prices. There was no Logan Paul box break this time. This all happened on its own. There's no Logan Paul box break. Everyone had a doom and gloom view of Pokemon cards. And then just slowly, it starts to ink along where like 151 does kind of good. You're like, all right, 151. One set. 151 does kind of well. There's the Magikarp from Paldean Evolved. You're like, did that guy just hit $1,000? It started out at like 150, 300, 600. 1,200. I just bought my second one of those. I love the way he looks. That's thank you, Shinji. He's the artist, right? So Paldea evolved. Magikarp starts to go to the moon. Twilight Masquerade. You know, you get Rudy starts talking about this because Twilight Masquerade's got that Greninja. Greninja doesn't normally even do well, right? If you look at traditional, he's basically the holy grail of Greninjas right now. If you look at past Greninjas, they've never done that well. Greninja, he's not even from Scarlet. By the way, that's the pattern if you haven't noticed. All the successful cards are from the past. They're old Pokemon. No Scarlet Violet Pokemon is doing well. So Greninja starts doing well. Good for him. You know, you got Pokemon like that, like Tyranitar, Melodic, Greninja. Cool Pokemon that don't get enough attention. Dragonite maybe. He's doing well. And then Terra Festival is announced. And you hear it's an Evolution set. And everyone's going, better watch that. I remember as the set's getting closer to launch, I'm noticing that the price of the cases is still not that crazy. I'm like, I've seen the artworks. This should be going crazy. And then after it comes out, after social media starts posting videos of it getting opened, the price goes up by 50% like overnight. And now the prices are very high on Terra Festival. And then not just that, the snowball, the insanity of Prismatic Evolutions begins. It's starting at 800, 900, 1,000, 1,001, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and now it's at like 1.6 per case. And people are losing their minds over it. But I don't find it that offensive. Number one, if you think it's bad for the hobby, you are so wrong, dude. This is exactly what the Pokemon card hobby needed, because it's proof is what it is. For all these people who put their money into their cards over time, Sun and Moon, XY, Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet, all those guys who really do love the cards, even when the price of the cards were going down, they bought anyways. And it no longer looked like an investment. It no longer looked like it's a store of value. No longer looks like it's worth your money to park it here. Why should you buy cards? Go put your money in the stock market. All that's blown out the window. Pokemon cards are a nice place to park your money. And, you know, it's a speculative, it'll always be speculative. It's a speculative thing. But when you really look deeper at what's going on, you got these rich YouTubers, you got these YouTubers with 1 million followers, and they take the card and they take their collection and they take their sealed boxes and they do box breaks and they show off their collection. And when they do that, they make a lot of ad revenue. Especially really big channels make tons of ad revenue off of this, just stupid amounts of ad revenue. So this is an idea we've talked about before. If you watch my previous video, I talked about it. There's this new powerful thing where collectibles and social media are going hand in hand, right? And those who have the collectibles, the best ones, they get to make content with the collectibles, and that content generates ad revenue, like tons of ad revenue. Think about, remember King Gary? He showed off his Pokemon card collection, and he showed it off on Pawn Stars. All those views for the Pawn Stars show went to Pawn Stars. They got all the ad revenue from that, all the subscriber growth. It didn't go to King Gary. It went to Pawn Stars. And if he was just posting those videos of himself over and over on his own YouTube channel, his channel would explode. The ad revenue would go to him. It's still that way right now. So there's this powerful synergy between collectibles and social media that people have become aware of. And it has changed the landscape for collectibles as a potential store value. Again, like you can invest in stocks, or you can buy a classic vehicle and it's like 200, or not 200, it's like 50 years old or something, right? People really do this. People really do this. Collectible watches are a thing, right? Collectible pieces of ancient jewelry, super old gold coins from the Roman time period. So Pokemon cards falls into that group of collectibles where now you can own the collectible and you get paid ad revenue dividends, I call them. They're ad revenue dividends. You're like a museum, essentially you're like a museum. And the ad revenue is the ticket to look at your items. So that is the future of collectibles. That is the future of Pokemon. I've been saying that for a while. These Pokemon cards have a value. But what's really fascinating about what just happened and why the hobby is so strong is because after the last couple years, we were all thinking overprinting's a thing, you know? How does Pokemon deal with all the hyper demand from 2021 and 2022? Just print a ton of it. And we would say this thing, Pokemon's going to print that into the ground. And they did a little bit. There's 15,000, I think, roughish, 15,000 PSA 10 Moonbryons. Despite this, Moonbryon's hitting record new prices of $3,000 per card. I think this proves that 15,000 Moonbryons is still not overprinting, which means, also I'm concluding this, anything before this point in time, Prismatic Evolutions, anything before that is underprinted. There's just not enough of it. They printed a lot of it and it's not enough. So what could be happening next is they print a whole bunch of that. But okay, so I wrote a little list. Is the Pokemon card hobby in trouble? Okay, so you see this, Mr. PokeRev might have said this. I've seen some other videos that seem to have gone viral, so we'll address some of that too. My opinion, literally the opposite. People pushed the price up during a time period where it seemed more clear that Pokemon is not an investment, which means that the high prices of Prismatic Evolution, it really is just high demand. That's it. Everyone just wants it. They want Crown Bryon. They want to pull him. They want to make a video of themselves pulling it. They want to see other people pulling it, and they want it in their pocket. So Pokemon is printing a product so desirable, they just can't print enough. Number 2, are we cooked? No, Pokemon will reprint the product. Okay, so that's the next thing. When you talk about Pokemon cards being in a dark place or like the hobby's going in the wrong direction, they're just going to print more of it, right? Like this stuff with Moonbryon. They printed a ton of it, and people stopped talking about it like it was this hot, investment for a little while at least, even though it kept moving up in price, and so you had that going on. But essentially, it's still in print. Nothing is settled. The dust is not settled. So Terra Festival and Prismatic, if you're scared there's not enough, they're just going to print the hell out of it. And this time they might print quite a lot more than 15,000 of those Umbreons. There might be 30,000 PSA 10 Umbreons. But let's see, what else did I say? Anything before this point is hyper underprinted. Right, I already addressed that. Hyper underprinted. Okay, so this is another big topic. Should sellers be allowed to cancel your pre-orders when an item goes up in price? Oh my God, I've had 4 people cancel on me now. I bought a Greninja at a good price, and it got canceled. And the guy relisted it for $400 more. I'm not even kidding. Well, no, I'm sorry. It went from $190 to $500. That's $300 more. So he relisted his Greninja for $300 more. And then I had another guy, I bought 10, and this was really expensive, but he had 10 of them. He was selling 10 Evolving Skies, and it wasn't Evolving Skies, it was actually Eevee Heroes, Rayquazas. I bought 10 of them, and he canceled them. And then he relisted them all for $100 each. So that happened. And then I was buying singles, and one guy canceled all my singles because I'd placed a large order. He canceled all of it. And then, and then battle partners. So I bought some with 2 different suppliers, and then I grabbed a case off eBay. The eBay guy canceled it. So yeah, if you get your price good on your pre-order, they cancel it if it goes up. How do you like that? And this is a whole subject too. So there's so much negativity and frustration around that I feel is totally legitimate. Totally legitimate. So first of all, the first subject, if you're worried Pokemon's going down the wrong path or Pokemon's in a dark place, absolutely wrong. All this desirability in Pokemon, it's so silly. It's silly. It's like saying it's a bad thing to be the popular kid in school. That's not a bad thing. That's a fantastic thing. Pokemon will fix it by printing more, and it'll just take some time, and then it won't be a problem anymore. So, and by the way, it's just a sign that the hobby you happen to be into is the best hobby. You're in the best hobby. How does that feel? It's a fantastic thing. But so the sellers, this is a whole nother subject that kind of went viral. I saw another video going viral on this one. Should sellers be allowed to cancel your pre-orders when an item goes up in price? So this has happened to me multiple times over the years, actually. And the last time it was happening was, let's see if I can remember. I've had this happen before. It was probably around Champions Path. So this has happened to me during Champions Path time period. You guys remember Champions Path, right? That was a set that everyone was super hyped for. It's going to be like the first, Rainbow Rare Charizard from Sword and Shield. We just had the insanity of Darkness Ablaze. Remember Darkness Ablaze Charizard used to be like $500 as a PSA 10. And then he fell down to nothing, like less than 100. So Champions Path, you would order ahead of time, and then they would cancel your order and reprice it at a higher price. This has happened once again in Prismatic Evolutions. There's absolutely no surprise. Like, my jaw did not hit the floor when that happened to me. But Prismatic Evolutions and Battle Partners have both been problems with that. And what can you do about it? So I say this is no different than shill bidding, in my opinion. That's right. So shill bidding, you guys know what shill bidding is? That's where you list your own item up on the market, and then you bid on your own item to make the price go higher. Well, how is that any different from you choosing a price for your product, and then when it sells, you just choose a higher price because you know there's somebody out there that bought it at the current buy now, so let's go higher now. So it's just chill bidding, but for buy it now, and it should be super illegal. It should be super illegal. The problem is there's no specific laws about it. I was kind of asking ChatGPT a bunch of questions about this one because I wanted to know what that would return since it searches the internet so well. And it kind of said in general, it's not allowed. So it suggested, there's laws that are written that are supposed to protect customers from false advertising or from manipulative or deceitful practices such as, again, like shill bidding is a perfect example of that. But so if you've got a bunch of product and you enter into some kind of contract to sell it to someone, and then you decide you can cancel that and go higher, you can make arguments that the seller has maybe by breaching that contract with them, your buyer has lost a lot of money. So the question is, the seller can't cancel that to resell it without basically stealing the customer's chance to have made money on that. It's a subject of who gets to make the money on that. So should the seller allow the customer to, be the one to have to pay for the pre-order, and then when it appears the value's gone up, now he rejects your cash and gets to relist it, So obviously I think everyone's going to agree on this subject that that's pretty bad. It's like scalping on steroids, man. It's like scalping alone is annoying, right? And scalping is a common word in Pokemon because it's a collectible. There's just never enough of it. So eventually a really good collectible comes out and everyone's mad that they're not getting it, and then they start using the scalper word a lot. But canceling a pre-order is on a whole nother level, man. That is some bad stuff. So I called up eBay before making this video. I actually took a call with them and I asked them, what can you do about this? eBay said you could do multiple things. The first thing you could do is you can leave negative feedback on their account. They said this really does hurt their account. Negative feedback does. The second thing they said is you can actually report people who cancel your purchases. So if most people are going to pre-order on something like eBay, if you pre-order with like a small card shop or GameStop or whatever stop, that might be trickier, but eBay at least will allow you to report people who have done this. They say it is against their policy to be able to cancel like that. And sellers, after an investigation, if they have been found to have been doing this, they will have their accounts basically punished. So she explained, depending on how many times they did it, it can be a small punishment to a severe punishment. If they did it a lot, then the account can actually be like shut down for a long period. So if you are on eBay offering pre-orders, and you might be, or I don't know if you're a shop, I don't know how many shops actually, pay attention to what I talk about. You are really risking a lot when you cancel these pre-orders. You have agreed to sell at the old price, and it's your customer's benefit because they fronted the money for the product. It's your customer's benefit that the item went up in value. You have their money. It's like the stock market. You have their money. They bought it on that day. You don't get to cancel that stock purchase just because it's gone up and you still have the product in your hand. That's cheating. So again, on eBay at least, you can leave a negative feedback and then report that seller, and eBay will actually punish them on that. And it was interesting. I had a whole conversation about it with the person I was talking to, and they said they were going to document our conversation and pass along, because I bet I'm not the only one who's talked about this with eBay. I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure other people have had this conversation too. And yeah, it's a big one. As for the rest of the places like GameStop, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any specific law saying you can't do this with like Pokemon cards, probably because it's such a wild, wild west out here for this particular kind of product. You could probably threaten them. I mean, I don't think it's America, right? So you can say something like, well, I pre-ordered this with you and you had my cash this whole time and you benefited from holding my cash and making me pay for the product ahead of time. And then it went up in value and you stole my ability to profit off of a good purchase. And you're the one who's now taking that profit. So you could probably threaten them with some kind of damages or losses, because I think there's a real argument for losses here. It's pretty direct, actually. Either the seller takes those profits from the item selling for like double what it was, or you take the profits from the item selling for double what it was. Well, if you're the one who has paid for it, it should be you who gets those profits. So Yeah, I would say in the future, card shops are going to have to start considering that they could potentially be sued for canceling pre-orders, especially if it turns out they did have the inventory necessary to fulfill the order and they only canceled it so that they could sell it at a higher price. It is not that hard to investigate a card shop for doing that. And so if you're caught doing that, you might be liable to a lawsuit. And with these cases being so expensive, it could be worth the lawyer's time to look into this. Like let's say only one customer buys one case from you and it's not that much money. I think the lawyer could look at how many cases you canceled, and if it was a decent amount, then he might be able to get you on not just hurting one customer, but multiple customers. You could get in a lot of trouble no matter what. So this is a fun subject and kind of scary for guys who do pre-orders. Just don't mess around with it, is my opinion. I mean, it's not just about what you get away with, because it's sort of a gray area. It's also about doing the moral thing, the right thing. It's so wrong, dude. Don't take from another person. I hate that kind of stuff. Just do the right thing. If they pre-ordered it and they got a good price on it, say, hey, you got me. You got the product at a good price. Congratulations. Good for you, Good for you. So just give them their profit and, you're a card shop. You'll have another shot at another time. You already have the advantage. You get the product at the manufacturer price or the distributor price. So you've already got the advantage. Let the customer have some fun. So there's a moral argument to it. There's a legal argument to it. And then there's an eBay policy to it. So on that subject, that is pretty trashy, that whole subject. It's sad, but it's bound to happen, and it's going to happen again in the future. So for all you guys watching today, this video, take what I'm saying and make it useful in your head. And yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. But apparently, Pokemon printing this prismatic set proves once again, man, with Pokemon not even having Logan Paul pushing it, has exploded. It's absolutely beautiful. So what else did I say? What will happen next? All right, so there is some concern about whether players will be able to get the cards they need to build their decks. Why would that be a concern? When you actually look at the cards that get unbelievably expensive, it's all just the chase alt arts. You don't have to have the alt art. You can just have a similar looking card, and it's like the EX version, isn't it? Unless I'm wrong about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, players. But when people are pursuing the top chase cards, they happen to open an enormous amount of product in order to get like whatever Crown Brion. So as a result of that, there's just tons and tons and tons of bulk that gets generated, and that includes all the trainers, all the playable cards, and those get listed up on TCG Player. When a set has an especially chaseable card, you generate tons of playable cards in the process of chasing. So I don't accept this argument that this really expensive set is bad for the players. I don't accept that. All it really means is you'll have to probably you'll have to probably buy some of your cards off a TCG Player rather than chasing after Crown Brion in a live rip and ship. Just don't do that. So I don't accept that argument. The next argument probably is for collectors that cannot afford the top chase pulls, you will have to save up or choose a cheaper version of your card. So that's probably what nobody wants to hear. That's what it really cuts down to. And so when you hear a lot of people complaining about where the hobby has gotten to, I can only feel so much sympathy, because what's really going on is that there's a lot of collectibles are really about jealousy and envy. That's the nature of it. The reason you look at other people's good card collection is because you go, oh man, I wish I had that. And at the end of the day, the fundamental nature is that there's not enough of it. Like if they printed the Crown Brion to be as common as a literal energy card, he's not a collectible. Everyone's got one and it's not that impressive anymore. Everyone's got one and he's, like literally as much as an energy card, he's no longer collectible at that point. So the very nature of collectibles is there won't be enough. Yes, feel a little bit of FOMO. Everyone jokes about don't get caught up in the FOMO. You should feel a little bit of FOMO. There's not enough. There never will be enough, okay? And Crown Brion PSA 10 or Black Label is going to be the Ferrari of Pokemon cards. Should everyone get to have a Ferrari? No. Some people are going to drive around in a used Ford. Some people are going to drive around in a cheap Honda. That's how it is. That's how collectibles are. It's the nature of the hobby. And I know you don't want to hear that, but there's some fun ways to collect the same card for much cheaper. For example, get the Korean 10. What's wrong with that? Get the Japanese 10, get the Chinese 10, get the Thai language 10. Just get a different language. collect an ungraded card, put it in a magnetic holder. Who says you have to grade it? So, there's probably one out there that won't grade 10. You don't have to grade it at all. Probably a little off center, maybe a white dot on the back, who knows? Just go buy that. It's significantly cheaper. And then put it in a magnetic holder and display it. So when I hear people grinding their teeth over how impossible it'll be to enjoy the hobby like a normal average collector, I kind of cringe at that a little bit. It's like, I think it's jealousy, I do. I think some of it is legitimate and some of it is jealousy. It's this idea that everyone should get to have a PSA 10 this, a PSA 10 that. It's like, no. The very fundamental nature of collectibles is that some people will have the good cards. That's it. And so there begins to become kind of like this conversation as usual about, like class and hierarchy and all that kind of stuff. If you were lucky, you were buying the PSA 10s of the best cards when everyone else was trash talking the hobby. But you didn't do that, did you? You thought, oh, that hobby sucks. I'm glad they're going to zero. I hate that hobby. It's stupid. And then it shoots up to the moon, and now you're going, oh, that's stupid. I'm never going to buy one of those. It's so overpriced. Look at all these rich guys taking all the cards. So there's a lot of whining and complaining. And at the end of the day, if you want to enjoy the hobby, you can't just look at other people's collections and feel bad about yourself. You have to get out there, buy what you think is a good, like a good value proposition for you and your income. Optimize. I like that word, optimize. They use that in video gaming a lot, right? I came from a video gaming channel and we did a lot of optimizing with your strategy. So you just have to look at where you are in life. When I was younger, I was dirt poor. I was really poor. I had 11 brothers and sisters. We came from a very poor family. And now I'm doing much better in life. I bet a lot on Pokemon cards doing well, and they did. So I'm doing better now. As time goes by, the cards just keep going up. I think I saw base set box hitting new prices. It's crazy. Anyways, so don't bet against Pokemon cards is probably what we have learned in the last couple of years. Because yes, it did fall, but look at it coming back. And there hasn't even been a Logan Paul box break in a while. Wait for some kind of viral thing to happen with some big content creator. Maybe like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast opens 10 base set booster boxes, or I don't know, some stupid thing. Who cares? But yeah, so there hasn't even been some viral moment yet. And it went up anyways. So don't bet against Pokemon cards. Don't bet against collectibles. The sports guys could have told you this stuff. They got cards that cost 20, 40, 80, 100,000. And they got that for days. So when we got our piddly little, oh, this Umbreon's $3,000, they go, only 3? That's cheap, bro. That's really affordable. And I don't buy the argument that players can't play. Yes, they can. They're going to get the cards very cheap off TCG Player because so many collectors are opening the product and just dumping their bulk. And as for the other collectors, this is the Ferrari of Pokemon. The demand is natural. Everyone wants it. Card shops want it. Collectors want it. Everyone wants it. Investors want it. They all want it. Social media wants it. You want to see it on social media. It's generating ad revenue for people. We're probably going to pull one in our live rip and ship, and then we're going to post that as a clip, and it's probably going to generate a ton of views. Although the shorts don't really make money. You can make a short that gets like 1 million views, and it makes like $60. So we don't make as much money from the shorts. We really make money from videos like this one, but sales is really where all the money is made. Anyways, yeah, we are in an attention economy. I said that in my previous video. This is an attention economy. Those who have the attention make the money, and having the right cards give you the attention that you need to have. Okay, so like Elon Musk, he owns X. Donald Trump has his own social media account now. He's got that Truth Social thing. And it's just how it is. Social media and attention is super powerful in this time period for humans. And that means collectibles. It's like I said in the other videos, like Lord of the Rings, the One Ring. Well, right now, Crown Brion's the One Ring. Everyone's going to want one. And, ooh, what was that? Some loud noise outside. And the cost of that Moonbryon is a representation of how badly everyone wants it. It's not some trick. It's not a market manipulation. It's not, oh, the rich versus the poor. Everyone wants it. People love Pokemon cards. It's this worldwide phenomenon. People across the world love Pokemon. It's a great game. It's a great design. #1 media franchise. Just how it is. And don't don't waste too much time crying over the spilt milk of the price. Just, again, focus on what you can do. There might be a Chinese version of it comes out very cheap. There might be a Korean version comes out very cheap. Maybe you just buy the PSA 9 of the Japanese version. Maybe you buy PSA 8 of the English version. Maybe you buy one, you don't grade it at all. You just put it in a magnetic holder and say, that's good. You know, maybe you put it in a binder collecting. But the idea that you should have to have a PSA 10 of the card and it should also be cheap, it's envy. I think it's envy a little bit. You have to accept that there's going to be Pokemon cards that cost in the thousands of dollars because that's what it means to be part of this hobby. It's a special thing. You know, imagine Pokemon's best Pokemon card, PSA 10, in a given year is $100. That's pathetic. It means nobody wants it. The fact that it's $3,000 is the sign that somebody wants it, and that's why the hobby, in my opinion, is actually in a very good place. Ferrari, everyone doesn't get to have one. Does that mean Ferrari's in trouble? The opposite. It means everyone wishes they had a car like that. That's what it actually means. Pokemon's in a great place. Okay, that's the end of the video. See you guys later.